Hi everyone, I'm Hillary, one of our dream makers and travel agents here with Magical Dream Journeys, and I just returned from Walt Disney World. So I thought I would share my journey with you guys, outlining all of the steps that you need to take as Canadians traveling down to the United States, going through all of the COVID policies and procedures. So sit back, watch this video if you're interested to see how a fully vaccinated Canadian was able to travel down to Disney and back again. So let's dive into this. So before we dive into all of the steps and everything, I want to set the stage for what the world was like when I traveled, as things are changing daily and changing really quickly. So I traveled from August 9th, 2021 to August 12th, 2021. And when I was traveling, there were a few restrictions in place for Canadians. The land border between the United States and Canada was not open to non-essential travel for Canadians. We had to fly down to the United States for non-essential travel. However, Canadians were allowed to cross the US border from the US into Canada again. I'll get into that later because that ties into how I was able to travel home. So we also were traveling as fully vaccinated Canadian citizens. This is important to know as there are different procedures in place with regards to quarantine and testing when you come back home if you are unvaccinated. So this is all from the perspective of someone who is fully vaccinated with a vaccine that is approved by both the Canadian government and the American government. And I was also traveling with a couple others who were fully vaccinated as well. So that's it. That's kind of where we were at when we were traveling. And now let's dive into the steps that we had to follow. So the very first step that we had to do was to get a pre-departure COVID test, as a negative COVID test is required by all international travelers going into the United States. So we had to book a COVID test, and you have to do it anywhere between 72 hours and your travel time. So you have that 3-day window. It can't be any older than 3 days before you travel. So there's a few different tests that the United States accepts for their COVID tests, things such as a PCR test, but they also accept antigen tests and rapid tests as well. So at our local pharmacies where we can get our international traveling tests, as we can't get them at assessment centers just yet, we have the option to do either a PCR test or a rapid antigen test. Right now, PCR tests are costing about $200, whereas rapid antigen tests were costing $40. So we decided that we were going to book the rapid antigen test, and I booked mine at Shoppers Drug Mart. It was super easy and a very painless process. So all I had to do was go online to the Shoppers Drug Mart website and look for Shoppers Drug Mart in my area that was doing a COVID-19 test, as not all of them will do the testing. From there, I went to try to book my appointment online. However, I ran into a bit of a snag. If I went online, it asked me why I was getting the test, and one of the options was travel. If I clicked travel, it immediately brought me to a PCR test, as that is what is generally required. However, I knew the United States accepted a rapid antigen test, and it was significantly cheaper, so that's what I wanted. And because I was having difficulties online, I opted just to call the Shoppers Drug Mart that I was going to, and they were able to book me no problem over the phone. So I highly recommend that you call the Shoppers Drug Mart if you want to get a rapid antigen test, and I was able to book about 2 weeks before my appointment. The day of my appointment, everything went really smoothly. I showed up at the Shoppers Drug Mart on time. I brought my health card and my passport. I didn't end up needing the passport, but I brought it just in case, as some pharmacies do require you to bring your passport. Then I had to fill out a quick form, and within a couple minutes I was getting the test done. It's just a basic nasal swab. It's not the test that goes all the way to the back of your brain. So it was super painless, super easy. They told me to hang out for 15 minutes, and then 15 minutes later I had my negative test results in hand, and I had that very first box checked. So the next thing I had to do the day before we left was do the online check-in for my flight down to Orlando. Now I flew Air Canada from Toronto to Orlando. And when I went to do the online check-in, the beginning was very similar to what it's been in the past. Put in your information, check that all of your flight information is correct. And then there were a few additional things that it asked me to input, such as checking off to make sure I didn't have any COVID-19 symptoms, asking me if I was vaccinated, and it asked me to upload my negative COVID-19 test results. So this is where I had a little bit of a bump in the road. I was doing the online check-in on my phone, and when I got to that section about the test results, it said that I could scan a barcode or a QR code if my test results had that. I could upload a file, or I could even take a picture and upload that. The test results I got from Shoppers Drug Mart was one page front and back. So the front of the page had my personal information on it, and the back of the page had the actual test results on it. So I took pictures of both sides, and when I went to upload the pictures, it would only let me upload one picture. So I tried and tried and tried. I don't know if it's a glitch or what, or if this is going to be changed in the future, but I had troubles and I could only upload one picture. So I chose to upload the picture of the test results on the back side of the page. And I upload it, and it said that I would get a notification, it'd send me an email and everything to make sure everything was fine and accepted. So I submitted that, everything seemed okay. Until I got to the airport the next morning. It was literally right as I got to the airport and was getting into the security line, I got an email saying that my test results were not accepted. I immediately texted the people I was traveling with, who I knew had the exact same test and everything as me, and I checked to see if theirs were accepted. Was it a test issue? Was it a me issue? I wanted to figure it out. So theirs were accepted, and turns out I should have done what they did. They took their Shoppers Drug Mart page, so the one page front and back test results, scanned both sides, uploaded that to their computer, and saved it as one PDF and submitted that PDF. And that was accepted because it had all of the information there. So if you're flying with Air Canada or probably any airline and they're asking you to upload test results, scan your test results, have it all as one document, combine photos, whatever you can do. Don't do what I did. Because I had run into that issue, I was prepared. I actually had brought an entire folder with all of my test results, health insurance, information, everything was in this folder. So I was prepared. When I got through security and customs, I went to the gate agent at my Air Canada gate, talked to them about it. Turns out the person there wasn't actually my gate agent. I had to wait for the right gate agent to come. And when he showed up, he actually started boarding the plane right away. So I didn't even have a moment to go up and say, can you help me? It says I don't have the correct test, but I have the results here. I think I'm good. What I did instead was when I got up for boarding, I had my boarding pass and passport in one hand, my test results in the other. And all he did was look at my boarding pass and passport, didn't even ask for the test results, didn't really look at them. I was good to go. I knew that personally I was okay because my test results were the exact same type of test that was accepted by my friends, and I had the results with me. So there is a lesson for you. Make sure you carry your test results with you and that you have access to them either on your phone or an actual physical copy, and that you scan the documents and upload it rather than just taking a picture. So step 3 is our attestation form. And again, this is happening even before you get to the airport to get on your flight to go to the United States. You need to fill out your attestation form. What this is a document by the CDC that essentially makes you make a declaration saying that you have a negative COVID-19 test result and you're good to go. It's a super simple and easy form to fill out. I found mine on the Air Canada website. It was also a step when I did the online check-in process. So I was going through the online check-in, and then there was one page and it said stop, download this attestation form, print it, and sign it and bring it to the airport. It is something that you have to print and sign. You need the physical hard copy. You cannot do it online. So I highly recommend that you do it at home before you get to the airport. That's even suggested by the airlines as well. It just makes everything go so much smoother. When I got to the airport, because I had done the online check-in and I had already completed the form at home, I was able to jump right into the security line, and that's where they were collecting the attestation forms. If I hadn't done that, I'd have to go to the check-in desk, get the form there, and fill it out there, and then get in the security line. So if you can't do it at home for whatever reason, they will have copies at the airport for you, but it's so much better just to get it done at home, and it's super simple. So like I said, when I jumped in the security line, within like a minute of me being in the line, they were already collecting attestation forms. The gentleman who collected it literally just looked at it to make sure it was the right form and that I had signed my name at the bottom, and then we were good to go. So to enter into the United States, the really two documents you need outside of your passport or Nexus or anything like that is your negative COVID-19 test results and your attestation form. And then other than that, you are good to go. I want to take just a minute here to go over everything at the airport because there were some differences there. So I had my negative COVID-19 test, I had done the online check-in, I had filled out my attestation form. So when I got to the airport, I was able to hop in security right away and give them the attestation form. That's also when I found out that my test results weren't accepted with the online check-in, but I knew I was okay with that. So I continued through security. Security was like normal, except there were a few glass partitions, and there is an exception that they're making for some liquids. So they are allowing you to take a 12-ounce, I believe a 12-ounce, separate hand sanitizer with you. So apart from your regular liquids, you can bring an additional hand sanitizer bottle. I believe it's 12 ounces, but you should double check with TSA. It's really nice because you're not trying to cram a big bottle into your regular liquids. I'm not entirely sure about the small little hand sanitizers, if those count for the exception. I brought a lot of the mini ones and I just had them in my regular liquids as I was just taking a carry-on. So just be warned that if you are just taking a carry-on, you can actually bring an additional hand sanitizer bottle if you need one of those large ones. So outside of that, security went well. Everyone was pretty excited to be there. We had some excellent security guards there. Then we went to customs. Now I have Nexus, so I was lucky enough that they had opened the Nexus line and I was able to hop in that shorter line and make my way through customs. Now, if I hadn't done that, I would have been stuck in a very, very, very long customs line. It was so long. When I checked in for my flight, I got a notice from Air Canada that they recommend being there 3 hours before the flight as it was an international flight. I'd planned to anyway, so I got to the airport at 7 for my flight at 10. I had plenty of time with that, but I think if I was in the regular customs line, the majority of that 3 hours would have been spent there waiting. So highly recommend that if you're traveling at a Pearson airport for an international flight, you get there very, very early if you don't have Nexus or Global Entry or anything like that. Now I did get a couple questions while I was away asking how I was able to get into the United States if it was non-essential travel. Well, first off, I was actually going for work as we were invited down by Disney to come to this travel agent fireworks event. So I let them know I was traveling for work and they just asked me a few questions about that and I was good to go. There were also a ton of families there traveling for vacation or to see family and friends. All of that seemed fine as well. So we are allowed to travel by air into the United States right now, and I was good to go with that. When I walked through the airport, I noticed that a lot of the concession stands, Starbucks, shops, everything tend to have quite long lines outside. That's just because of social distancing, so they look a lot longer than they are. Like the Starbucks line looked huge, but honestly, it went by super fast. At our gate, they were socially distancing there as well, so they had about every other seat blocked off for social distancing. That meant there weren't really many seats that we could take and relax at our gate before boarding our flight. So know that if you are traveling maybe with little kids or if you're older and you really need to sit at your gate, aim to be there pretty early so you can get a seat, or you might have to sit at the gate next to yours or find alternate seating, because we did end up standing for a good portion of our time waiting there just because they had blocked off a lot of seats for social distancing. Other than that, everything in the airport went very smoothly. You had to wear masks inside the airport and of course on the plane at all times. When we got onto the plane, it was an Air Canada flight and it was a very clean plane. You could tell that this plane had been scrubbed. There was a little bit of a cleaning scent to it, but as a whole, it just looked and felt clean. Air Canada also did something that I thought was pretty great. They gave us all these clean care packages. So in the package, you got an additional mask, some sanitizer wipes, and they also gave you a mini hand sanitizer that I actually ended up using on our trip. So this was a great option because if your mask got wet on the plane or for whatever reason you wanted more wipes to wipe down your seat, I already bought my own, but this was a great thing by Air Canada. So I'm so glad they gave that to us. Thank you, Air Canada. Masks were worn the entire flight as well. I didn't hear anyone complaining about that. Everyone seemed pretty good, pretty used to it by now. And the flight went really smoothly. Because we had gone through customs and everything already in Toronto, when we landed at MCO, the Orlando airport, it kind of just felt like a normal Florida Disney vacation. We could get off the plane. Yes, we were still wearing our masks. Yes, that wall of humidity still hit you, but it felt more normal. It felt exciting that we were in Florida once again. So once we had made it to Orlando, we got into our destination, we really had to shift our minds to thinking about coming home. And because we were there for such a short amount of time, we actually had to start those steps right away. So Canada, for us to come back home, required that we have a negative COVID-19 test. So that was our next thing we had to do. Now, Canada has a bit of a difference between the tests that they accept compared to the United States. Canada does not accept a rapid antigen test. Canada accepts tests like a PCR test or a NAT test, so NAT or NAAT, which is a nucleic acid amplification test. So those were a little more specific, and we knew PCR tests would take a little bit of time, same with potentially NAT tests, so we wanted to give ourselves plenty of time to actually get the test done and get the results in while still being in that 72-hour time frame that they give you. So we decided that we were going to book our tests at Walgreens. Now, there are other clinics, private clinics, that will do tests for you, PCR tests, NAT tests, all of that. Those clinics range from about $175 to $200+, especially if you want it quickly. Walgreens and CVS are doing free COVID testing. So we actually had one of our travel agents who went down before us, a couple weeks before us, and she had called a Walgreens there to make sure that it was okay that Canadians get tested. They said absolutely no problem. She went, got her test, had no issues. So we were going to do the same thing. We went onto the Walgreens website a couple days before our test. We were able to book it 2 days before. Sometimes you can book it 3, so make sure you're paying attention to that. Go onto the Walgreens site. It's very easy. You go to the testing section. We put in the zip code for our resort, and there was a whole list of Walgreens that were doing testing, along with the different types of tests that they offered, such as a rapid antigen, a PCR, or a test called ID Now, which was the NAT test. So we knew we couldn't get the rapid antigen. The PCR test was going to take a couple days for results, but the ID Now test said that our results would be ready in 24 hours. So we decided to go for the ID Now test. So we booked it, we got a time slot, and then when we got to the Orlando airport, because like I said, we had to start everything right away, we rented a car and we first went to the outlets and did a little shopping, and then we went to Walgreens to get our test results done. Now, Walgreens is a drive-through testing only, so you can't walk up and do it. So you do need some type of transportation to take you there. We opted to rent a car. You can call a cab. When you call a cab, make sure you're letting them know what you're doing. You can try to Uber, however, you do definitely need to let your Uber driver know that that is what you were doing, whether you text them or whatever. Give them the opportunity to back out of the job, as they might not want to wait. So I highly recommend trying a cab or renting a car. When we got there, we just drove up to the drive-through pharmacy at the back. We had to wait a little bit as there was a couple cars in front of us. It was a good thing. We were actually there a few minutes early. So by the time we got up to the window, we were right on time. Be on time for your test. When we were there, the woman at the window just asked to see our email confirmation that we got. When we had booked the test for the address that it asked us to input, we put in the address of the resort that we were staying at in Florida, and that wasn't a problem. When we got up to the window, all she wanted was the confirmation. She didn't need to see any of our ID, just the confirmation, so we were good to test. The test was really simple. She walks you through how to do it, so you do it yourself. It's basically like a really long cotton swab. You do a frontal nasal swab. So again, it's not one that goes to the back of your brain, so it's really easy to do. She walks you through how to put it back together, give it to her, and then all she did was give us our receipts and said our results would be emailed to us within 24 hours. Something to note is that if you're going on a weekend, your results may take a little longer. We were on a weekday, so we actually got our test results within a few hours. We tested, went and dropped off the rental car, and then went to the resort. From there, we went to dinner, walked around the resorts a little bit, and then at about 9 o'clock at night, I checked my email and the results were there. So just know it's guaranteed within that 24 hours. However, on weekends, they give you that caveat, it might take a little longer. So our results, when we got them, turned up. There were two options of how we could view the results. The first was a full lab report, and the second was an easy to read lab report. We were all negative. It was all good to go. I downloaded all of the files that it gave us, took screenshots, everything. So I had all of those test results ready to go for the next couple steps that we needed to get home. But yeah, that was our next test done, and it was super easy, and it was free testing at Walgreens. It was wonderful. Highly recommend it. Great service. Now, one additional note about testing. We were able to test at Walgreens and get our results very quickly, but we'd also prepared Plan A, Walgreens, Plan B, and a Plan C, just in case. So just in case we couldn't get tested at Walgreens for whatever reason, or our test results were late, we had a Plan B, which was to test at the Orlando airport. They do, at this point in time, have a testing facility at the Orlando International Airport. Now, I haven't heard the best things about it, I'll be honest. I've heard that they tend to be overworked, understaffed, and things can take a long time. So what we did was we made an appointment for a test there for the morning, very early morning before our flight home. Because we had gotten our Walgreens test in time, we were able to go in and cancel that and give that opportunity to someone else, but we had booked that appointment just in case. So that was our Plan B that, thank goodness, we didn't have to use, but it was there at the airport just in case. But again, I wouldn't necessarily rely on that. That test was also going to be fairly expensive as well. And again, it's a rush, so you're not always guaranteed to get the results before you actually get on your plane. We then had a Plan C. Since we were planning to fly from Orlando to Buffalo and then crossing the land border from Buffalo into Fort Erie, we had planned to, if we needed to, test in Buffalo at one of their testing sites by the border there, or even at the airport. So that was our third backup plan. So I highly recommend that you look into multiple testing options for you, just in case something falls through, you have a backup prepared. The next step was filling out the arrivecan app. So this is an app that you need to complete and fill out for you to enter back into Canada, and it can be done no more than 48 hours before you enter into Canada. So we had our test, we were having fun at Disney, all that was fun and good. And then the day before we were traveling home, we went on and we downloaded the app and filled it out. Super easy. It just asks you your basic information. It then asks you for your travel document information, so like your passport or your Nexus. It asks you for your vaccine information. So it did ask us to upload our vaccine certificates. I had those saved on my phone, so I was easily able to upload that. So make sure that you have those accessible to you, whether it's the hard physical copies you can take pictures of, or saved on your phone or whatever device you're using to upload to the arrivecan app. So that was all we had to do with the vaccines. We were then asked to make a declaration if we had gotten our negative COVID-19 test. We didn't have to upload the test results. That kind of shocked me, to be honest. I wonder if they'll change that in the future or not, but it was like the attestation form. We didn't actually have to give them our results. We just had to declare that we had them. And then that was pretty much it, besides going through some basic COVID symptoms, check off that you don't have these, and you're good to go. When you submit the arrivecan app, you actually get like a receipt with a code that you can save to your phone. It also comes up every time you then reopen the arrivecan app for you. A good thing to note is that you can actually do multiple people in your arrivecan app. So you can have yourself, and then if you're traveling, say, with your partner, you can have them and do their arrivecan app there. If you're traveling with your family, you can have everyone within one app. Everyone doesn't have to do it on their own phone. You can have it all in one. Now, I do suggest that if you're traveling with a group of friends or a couple of adults, that you do yours on your own, so it's easy for you to pull up the receipt and documents if you need. But for families, it's really easy because one family member just needs to download the app and can do it for everyone. So that was the arrivecan app, super simple to do, and then you're good to go. So now we get to the border crossing part. Now, we actually made the decision to fly from Orlando to Buffalo and then cross the border at the Peace Bridge back into Canada. We decided to do that over flying from Orlando to Toronto, as the flights from Orlando to Toronto were astronomical in price. It was absolutely ridiculous how much they were going to cost. So we decided that we would fly to Buffalo and then cross the land border that way, and that is allowed. Canadian citizens are still allowed to cross from the United States into Canada. So that was fine. We planned out that. We flew domestic. So because we flew domestic, there was no other information or additional documents that we had to provide the airline that we were flying, which was Southwest. Now, as a note, we flew Southwest. The airplane on Southwest was clean. I will say maybe not as clean as Air Canada's was. I still had to wipe down the seats and everything. There was a little more dirt on my wipe that I pulled up, but as a whole, it was pretty clean. The flight was pretty good. Everyone wore their masks. I really didn't hear anyone complaining or making a fuss about the masks, so that was all good. When we got to the Buffalo airport, masks are required in the airport, and we just had to go outside and wait for our airport taxi. So we had hired an airport taxi to take us from the airport just across the border. There's actually many services that will do that for you. It just comes at a cost. However, when we price compared it to flying from Orlando to Toronto, it was still significantly cheaper. So highly recommend looking into that option for you guys if you're looking to save a little bit of money, if your prices for Orlando to Toronto are a little too crazy. So the company we used, there were a little bit of bumps in the road with them. For example, they were about 40 minutes late picking us up, and the price that they quoted us and we had on a reservation sheet was very different than the one they wanted us to pay when we got in the car. So all it took was a couple quick phone calls to management and whoever, and that all got straightened out. When the gentleman picked us up, he made sure that we had done the arrivecan app, that we had our negative COVID test results, and that we were all good to cross the border. So it was nice that he double checked with us that we were good for everything. When we got to the land border there, it was actually slightly busy because at this point in time, Americans were now allowed to cross into Canada for those who were fully vaccinated with the proper documentation. So we waited a little bit, honestly not long at all. Once we got up to the border guard, he asked us the usual questions such as, how long were you away? What did you buy? All of that. And then he just simply asked if we had completed the arrivecan app. We all said yes, and I had everything ready. I had my app receipt ready, I had my test results, I had my vaccines, everything ready, but all he wanted to know was if we had done it. On his end, he was able then to, I guess, pull up the arrivecan app and see all of our information there, and then we were good to go. We did not have to test. At this point in time, Canada had actually made a very recent change that fully vaccinated Canadian travelers entering back into Canada are no longer mandated to test. It becomes a random selection testing, and we were not selected to test. So all he said was, here you go, enjoy your day. And we were good to go and go home without testing. So that was a very interesting change compared to what I've heard, but it was nice because the entire situation was super easy. arrivecan was easy, getting to the border was easy, he was very nice, we had completed everything and had everything prepared, so if he did want to see something, we could show it to him, but other than that, we were good to go. Now, we did have one of our other travel agents travel previous to us, and she flew from Orlando to Toronto, and she did say that before she boarded the flight from Orlando to Toronto, she was required to show her negative COVID-19 test results to the gate agents there before they would let them on the plane. So keep that in mind, that if you are flying, you probably will have to show those negative test results either at the airport or during your online check-in or at some point. Whereas us going across the land border, as long as we had completed the arrivecan app, and we had made that declaration and we had the results, we didn't necessarily have to show them. But you still need to do it. You still have to get the test. So just one thing to note about the changes in traveling across the border as fully vaccinated Canadians and random selection testing. So we did not get tested, but they obviously asked us just to be mindful. If we developed any symptoms, then yes, to go get tested, and to make sure we're just smart about who we're around and what we're doing, as we did not technically have to quarantine. Now, for me, I wanted to try to see if I could get a rapid COVID test when I got home, just to make sure I was safe and I was good to see friends and family. However, I was not able to get a COVID test when I got home because I did not meet the requirements. So I contacted Shoppers Drug Mart and a couple other pharmacies just to see if I could get a COVID test when I got home, and they all said no. They were allowed to test people who were traveling, but not who had traveled within the last 14 days. So I could not get a test there. I went to look at the assessment centers in my region, and once again, I did not meet any of their requirements, as I was not showing any symptoms, and I did not meet any of their specified group requirements. So I could not get any COVID-19 testing when I returned to Canada. I'm not sure if this is going to change at all. I think this is probably an example of policies changing so quickly and then the wording and everything not catching up. I do hope at some point we will be able to go get tested, and whoever wants to get tested can get tested, as I think it would be good for a lot of people to have that peace of mind. I know for me, I would have liked that. I think you also have to be mindful that if your work is requiring you to get a COVID test, if you've traveled to come back to work, that you let them know this might be the situation and maybe see what they can offer you as your employer as a test. Just know you might not be able to easily get one when you come home, as I learned. And again, this could all change, but that was my experience, that I couldn't even get a COVID test if I wanted to when I got home. So that is everything. Everything from the pre-departure COVID test to the attestation forms, the airlines and all of that, to your COVID test to come back into Canada, the arrivecan app, and crossing the border and all of that. So I hope this was able to help you in some way. I hope you saw that I had a relatively easy time. I felt that it went fairly smoothly, and I think it's because I was prepared. I had all my documents ready, whether it was digital copies, hard copies. I was also prepared to be patient if there's any bumps in the road. So you just got to go into this knowing that you need to be as prepared as you can be and as patient as you can be. But as a whole, I had a really good time, guys, and I hope you enjoyed joining me on this journey. And if you have any questions, feel free to let us know. If you are interested in booking a Walt Disney World vacation for the future, or Universal Orlando vacation, Disney Cruise Line, Norwegian Cruise Line, Royal Caribbean, anything like that, feel free to reach out to us. You can reach the travel agency at info@magicaldreamjourneys.com. Give us an email there. Or you can reach out to me personally at Hillary, Hillary, @magicaldreamjourneys.com. So once again, thank you for joining me on this journey, and I hope you all have a magical day. Bye now.